My name is Derek Barnard, and I went to Oswin Avenue School between the years of 1945 and 1949. After leaving Woodfield School, I then didn't pass the 11 plus, and so automatically you went up to the next big school, which was Oswin Avenue. This was fine because there were mainly women teachers, because the middle class, or middle-aged, should I say, or younger men were still at war, or they'd just been demobbed, and they were gradually coming back into teaching. So one week you would be taught by a female teacher, and then the next thing they were replaced by a male teacher. Sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't so good. One of the teachers that was there for all the time that I was there was Mr. Anderson, who was the art teacher, and he also used to keep bees near the playing field, which was known as the half acre. It was behind some bushes, obviously, because when you were playing football or cricket on the half acre, you didn't want to be running around chasing bees, or them doing the same. But I did find that it was a very interesting subject, actually. There was also a Mr. Orty that taught English, which I enjoyed his lessons. And then another few months later, Mr. Dixon arrived, who was an ex-RAF PE instructor, and consequently he took PE when he returned. Also, he took science as well. And you had to make sure that you paid attention, otherwise there'd be missiles being thrown at you, mainly in the form of pieces of chalk or whatever was handy at the time, be it blackboard rubber or whatever. I do remember once in his class, we weren't sat at desks at the time. He was telling us a tale, and we were all sat together in a couple of rows, and I was on the back row, and he was talking about batteries, and he made a joke about a Salton battery, which at the time I didn't understand. I didn't get it straight away. And after he started continuing with the lesson, it suddenly dawned on me what the joke was, and I started laughing to myself, and of course I got called out for why I was laughing at his lessons. Anyway, I explained it, and everything was all right. And another teacher I remember was Mr. Green. He was there right from the very beginning when I started Oswin Avenue, and he was a music teacher. And he used to wear these stiff winged collared shirts. Seemed very formal at the time, but he was a very good musician. Another teacher that I remember quite vividly, the only thing that I don't remember is his name. But the thing that I do remember mostly about him was the subject that he used to teach, and this was called gardening science. It was mainly on the science part of it, knowing all the different chemicals that were involved in gardening. And obviously with it being chemically biased, it was very boring, as I say, and most people weren't taking any notice anyway. He used to sneak up on you if you were talking to a friend and that, or whoever you were sat next to, and without warning he'd give you a punch in the kidneys, and that would certainly waken you up. Round about 9 years old, when I was going to Woodfield School, I joined a scout group at Aldergrove in Balby, 65th Troop it was called. But I joined as a cub. Reaching 11 years old, you automatically went into the Scouts. I enjoyed that. You had to do various crafts, and when you passed a certain craft, you obviously got a badge for it. And some people had arms full of badges. I had about 5. In time, when I got a little bit older, probably 13 years old, we started to go camping. One particular camping expedition I remember, we went for a week to Squirrel Wood at near Burg Wallace, and I always remember we had a hand cart, and this was provided by one of the scoutmasters. But we started off from Aldergrove in Balby and had this hand cart, this flat hand cart, just 2 wheels on it. Some were pulling, some were pushing. But as you can imagine, we walked all the way from Balby, through town, through Bentley, along Bentley Road, and then up on Asken Road. Eventually we came to what a divide before you come to Asken. This road to the left took you towards Burg Wallace. it was called a straight mile. Whether it was a mile or not, I don't know, but it seemed a lot longer, especially when you were pulling a heavy cart. Anyway, we got there, and the scoutmaster, he came later on in a vehicle, and we were all ready to unpack, and we found this nice grassy patch. Were nice and flat, and we thought, oh, this will be fine. We're going to start pitching the tents. And he came along and said, oh, no, we're not going to pitch the tents there. That's where you're going to pitch the tents. Of course, this was all nettles, which was a bit of a downer actually at the time, but thinking back about it, at least with beating the nettles down, it probably was a little bit softer when you were in a sleeping bag. But anyway, we did various wood crafts and things like that, and cooking, and then at the end of the week, fortunately we didn't have to bring the cart back. We were able to come back on the bus. A bit later on, this Slim or Jim Alsopp, he got married, and he got married at Aldergrove, and he had his reception at the Ivanhoe at Sprotborough. And with me being a patrol leader, I was one of the chosen. I think there were about 8 of us all told. We performed the duty of guard of honour for this ceremony, which we had a few photographs taken in the grounds of the Ivanhoe on the cricket field. There are a few of the lads that I do remember, patrol leaders. Kenny Eyeball, he was another one. His parents used to have a greengrocer's shop on the top road at Balby. There was one greengrocer's on one corner of the street, and then there was another greengrocer's on the opposite corner. As far as I can remember, it was 1 hour a week, depending on the time of year, the season. It was either the football season or it was the cricket season. They had a bus come and pick us up once a week and take us down to the old baths, and that's where they taught us to swim. Certainly where I learned to swim, and but if you couldn't swim, you had to learn to jump into the shallow end, and a couple of pupils would hold a rope up, and you had to jump over this rope to jump into the shallow end. And this Mr. Dixon used to take us for that, and he had a rope, and I mean, it wasn't used for encouraging you to go in, not physically anyway, but he used to crack it on the side of the pool to try and make you jump in anyway. But yeah, I learned to swim there, and I carried. At least it taught me how to swim, and once you got the knack of it, it was an enjoyable sport actually. I was never academically bright, but I used to like using my hands, and as a consequence, that's why I went into engineering. They did have at Oswin Avenue, they did have woodworking class, and the same teacher, Mr. Bedlington, he also taught metalwork as well. You either went into the metalwork or you went into the woodwork. As it happened, I went into the woodwork, but it stood me in good stead for later on in life. Also, while I was there, we had a visit from Bruce Woodcock, and he was a champion. He was the British champion, heavyweight champion, and also he went to Oswin Avenue, and that's the reason that he came and gave a talk and showed off one of his belts. I'm not 100% sure which belt he won, because I know he won the British title, the Lonsdale belt, and then he went on and he won the British and European heavyweight title. I remember these quite well because they were all broadcast. In those days there were no televisions at all, and everything, any news you got when the radio was on. And then I remember he fought for the world title, I believe it was, and he fought a chap called Joe Baxi. But unfortunately, this Joe Baxi was too good for him, and in fact he broke Bruce's jaw. But it was an entertaining afternoon, knowing somebody that's gone to your school and you've been listening to him on the radio in his fights, and seeing him face to face. And I know he did eventually retire, and I have subsequently been in his pubs that he's been the landlord of.
If you would like to know more about the Ossie Through the Ages project, then please email me at tonyarmstrong1959@outlook.com.